Hi and welcome to Simply Ballers 2024-2025 season previews. It's that time of the year where for the next 30 days I'll be releasing a season preview for each team. In each preview there will be a quick season and off-season recap. Then following that we'll be looking at what's in store for each team. We'll be looking at some of the key questions that they have, some of the positives, some of the negatives. It will be digging deeper in some of those areas. And at the end there are some final thoughts with prediction of the standings, their floor, their ceiling, some of the playoff chances, and some other fun predictions. So today we're going for the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm not sure if anyone expected this kind of season from them, especially considering that the year they had last year, where they missed not only the playoffs but they missed the play-in. And although they did have a bunch of trades last year, they still had a top 7 player in Luka Doncic, who played 66 games, and they still missed the playoffs. So this year they not only won 50 games, they also made the finals. They beat two very good teams and did it so well as well. Their finals run was a bit cut short with the way the series went against Celtics. But we can also just point out to the fact that Luka wasn't 100%. They were actually just outmatched. The Celtics team was just really good. I would have had them being anyone like that or outside of Denver. And I probably could make a case that the Mavericks would have been anyone else that came out of the East outside of the Celtics. So this was a successful season for the Mavericks. This was the second time they made a deep run with Luka, so that is progress there. They already look to work to get over the hump. They look to make their trades that make them a well-balanced team by getting PJ Washington and getting Daniel Gafford. So, since acquiring both of them, they were 6th in net rating with a plus 5.8 net. They were 6th best offense and a 7th best defense. So they were already addressing their needs, and their offseason was a success too. They addressed some of those holes again. They added Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Quentin Grimes, alongside some rookies and two-ways. So they already made a lot of progress last year in making themselves a better overall team, and they continue to do so in the offseason, and they can set themselves up to be a legit contender. So what's in store for the Mavericks this year? It's Luka continuing the level of play and also just getting better. Should he also just adjust to get his game more? What kind of adjustment would we want to see from him? Then there's another year of Irving and Doncic together. That should continue to get better each year with more chemistry and more time to just work on things. And also just I want to see Irving in a different being used differently, and just adapt some of his games, because we will look at some of the stats from him over his career and how impactful and effective he's been, and he can still get better. But then there are also what all of the additions are going to look like. What is Klay going to look like in a whole new team? He's never been with anyone else outside of Steph and outside of the Warriors system. Can they also continue to be a balanced team? Are the role players good enough for all of that? Then there's one of my X factors in Lively's improvement, and do they just have a legit chance at a title? So this isn't a question about Luka just needing to improve his game, but it's still something fun to watch out for. It's still something that we want to look forward to. He's only 25 years old, and he's already been on All-NBA first team 5 times. He's in his entire 20s, he's been regarded as a top 2 at his position, and his playoff resume is just as impressive, where even though his 2 first series ended in a loss, they were still just dominant with him. Then he also already has 2 deep runs, once into the conference finals in 2022 and now in the finals. So he's already showing a lot in the regular season and in the playoffs. So then with these kind of players that are already elite at such a young age, what else is there to talk about? Because it's easy to just bet on them being the same. It's easy to bet on Luka having another All-NBA first team. Even if he adds nothing to his game, if he even has a identical game season to last year, he's already in a 0.1% of the 0.1%. He's already in that upper tier of players that you can win easily with. But then he's also 25 years old. The stats may be the same, but he may also look entirely different. There are still so many ways that he can improve his game on. You see even like all-time greats that they make more leaps, more jumps as they go on with age. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward with him. One of the first few seasons, there was an adjustment from him going to the post more, like I think it was in 2023, that he was slowing the game down more, getting to the work in the post, getting easy matchups then. This year, I think it was him just more pushing the pace. The Mavericks were a faster team. But then this year, he might be on a defensive end. He might add something that makes him a neutral or an above average defender. It might be getting himself off the ball more, like we always talk about. One of the main things this year was his 3-point shooting. That jumped to 38% on over 13 threes, both career high in percentage and volume. So there are still ways that he just looks to improve. I do wonder if that 3-point shooting will remain, because he has been a bit up and down shooter. So just whether can he just remain that consistent with it. But then there are some of his tracking stats when it comes to just being on ball. He's worked on that as well. Starting this year, look, his time of possession went from 8.3. In previous years, it went from 9.3 to 9.1 to 8.3 this year. His average second went from 6.19 to 6.12 to 5.46. His average dribble went from 5.37, 5.30 to 4.81. So we're already seeing a lot of progress in Luka just changing his game each year. Whether it's in a post, pushing pace, being more on off ball, we are seeing that progress. And it's going to be another year of him doing so. And I wonder what this year will have him add to his game. Now there's also Kyrie that we need to consider, because he matters just as much when it comes to this whole duo. And outside of his off-court situation and health in the last few seasons, when it comes to basketball, you just know what you're getting from him. He's an efficient scorer when both on and off the ball. He's a great 3-point shooter. Inside the arc, including the rim, he can easily break down the defenses just for himself and for others, to create for others. So he is already one of the best offensive players in the league. We know what we're going to get from him. Then there's also this that I was kind of surprised at. His impact metrics across his career. He's just been at elite level in many different scenarios. In 2017 with the Cavs, 2018 with the Celtics, again 19 with the Celtics, then with the Nets on his own, Nets with KD and Harden, and with Luka. So he's been with 4 different situations with 4 very different players, and he still is just as effective. He's still highly impactful with whatever guys you throw at him, in whatever system, and that consistently just tells you what you're getting from him on a night-to-night basis when he is playing. But there's one thing that I want to see from him, and that's just a change in his shot diet, because he's a really good 3-point shooter. He has 8 seasons shooting over 40% and better. There should not be a world where he also has one season when it with a 40% 3-point rate, because for his career it's 33. He almost shoots 40%. He shoots 40% on almost 9 threes per 100 possession, and that shouldn't be that low. So what if this is the year that he just may adapt? Because we've seen him throughout his career just improve, change his game, work on his game. So if there are still ways for him to get better, that just makes this duo so much more impressive, so much more dangerous. Because there are still ways for that duo together to be much better. With potential changes from Luka as well, and how he could adjust his game, I don't think they have reached any kind of ceiling when it comes to their offensive duo. And there are still things left to be maximized, because this year with both on, the Mavericks were plus 9.4 with a 1-23 offense. So, and that's likely, that could get better. They already have an elite offense with them on. Kyrie's doing his thing, Luka's doing his thing, but with adjustments to both of their games, we're only just scratching what they could do. But the reason they went to the finals wasn't just because of those two, it's because they were a balanced team, particularly on the defensive end. That happened in 2022, where they made the conference finals, and it was because they were also 8th on defense. Last year they dropped to 23rd. This year they were 17th for the year, but then were 7th post the trade deadline. So the question is, can they remain a top 10 defense? Are the moves that they made good enough to just bring some more size and bring more versatility to them? Can Gatford and Lively continue to protect the rim? Because that's going to be the biggest question. We know what their offense is going to be, and it could still be better, but then everything else lies with the defense. Can Luka improve as a defender? We've seen Kyrie play much better defense in these playoffs. So can those two be better together defensively? Can the Mavericks work out a way to cover them up, or will they just be average enough where you don't need to change your defense around them? Because they have a lot more size this year with Gafford, Washington, Lively, Marshall, Thompson, Dinwiddie, Cleaver, Prosper, Powell. They're all guys that are either just big or big relative to their position. So there are a lot of guys that you can surround Luka and Kyrie with that brings something defensively. And one of the main ways that they did so was through the rim protection. That was shown a lot more in the playoffs versus certain matchups, and that's where having both Lively and Gafford was very impactful and helped them tremendously. Because since the trade, they were 6th in opponent frequency at the rim, and they were also 3rd in opponent field goal percentage. So they were elite at just not allowing the guys get to the rim. They were also elite at just protecting the rim when they got there. So when you protect the rim like that, you're gonna give up something as well. But what made their defense even better is they was only 10th in the frequency from the corners. Because I know from being a Heat fan, they also allow one of the fewest shots at the rim, but they give up a lot of corner threes. The Mavericks don't do that. So I don't think this was just a fluke. I think this was just a great defensive philosophy and system. And now they're bringing in more defenders with size that can continue to build on that. So right now, that's going to be the biggest question for it. The answer to those questions could be Lively. That's why he's my X factor for the season. In the playoffs, in 462 minutes with Lively on, the Mavericks were plus 10.4 with a 107.9 defense. Without him, they were minus 2.2 with a 114 defense. So that's a wild swing, just period. And that's when you consider that he was a rookie, that makes this even more impressive. He's only 20 years old and already impacting the game in such a way. And on the other end, he just did a good job as a big. He finished easy shots. He took the lobs. He finished on the dump offs, and he still shot over 75% from 2. Even though they are just easy dump offs and lobs, it's still not easy to shoot that consistently, even if you're spoon fed. But then here are also some fun stats when it comes to his rim protection. He defended over 6 shots within 6 feet, where the opponent shot 59%. That's 5% worse than expected. Again, that's just a rookie doing that. But then in the playoffs, that jumped to he only defended 4 shots, but they only shot 43%. That was 21% worse than expected. So if he can turn himself into a consistent elite rim protector, as well as what he does offensively, and continues to improve on that end, maybe becoming a spacer, improving his passing on a short roll, then he could swing a lot for this team because of the defense that he provides. They know all of the other additions. They did add plenty of players that could be a big deal. They got old players that give them something different. The main addition was Klay Thompson for me, because he replaced Tim Hardaway Jr., with arguably the second best 3-point shooter, and that's a significant upgrade. Klay will always get that attention. He will get more defensive attention than Tim Hardaway Jr. does. He's more consistent than him. He's a much better shooter, and he also does it in a much different way that will add more versatility to the Mavericks, because that's the main thing about Klay. The stat that pops up was his frequency off screen over the years, where this year was 33%, 29%, 28%, 34, 33, and 32. So in the last 5 or so years, a lot of his shots, almost a third of his shots, come off screen. He just leads the league in frequency and position off screen, and there's no one that comes close. And then on the other hand, his spot ups are around 17%, 18%, 20, 13, 11, and 18. So he is a good option as a spot up, but he's mostly used as an off-ball screen. That's a very different to what Tim Hardaway Jr. was being used. So now I wonder what direction they'll go with in using Klay. Is he going to be used in the same way as Tim Hardaway Jr. was, or do you maximize Klay in a way that just adds more versatility to the offense? And when it comes to just the comp between Klay and Tim Hardaway Jr., you can see how it's not even close. These are values where 100 is average. And you can see in 3-point shot making this year, Klay was over 210% better than average. Tim Hardaway Jr. was 15% better than average. everywhere else, versatility, catch and shoot talent was much better. 3-point shooting talent miles ahead. He also was getting guarded tightly more than him. Has an overall gravity and took worse shots because of the defense respecting him. So they are getting a huge upgrade when it comes to offense with the 3-point shooting that they get from Klay that they didn't have in Tim Hardaway Jr. Then there's Marshall, who's been a solid wing for the Pelicans. He's just another guy that has the size and can do a bunch of things. This is the Derrick Jones Jr. replacement, but he's better offensively. But a lot of that will depend on how good his 3-point shooting is, because in the first 3 seasons he shot 28% from 3, but that jumped to 39% this year. Though he's also not a volume guy, but if he can make the defense pay at a low volume at 39%, he can substitute what you had in Derrick Jones Jr., except just bring on some of the ball handling and the extras on offense that he gives that Derrick Jones Jr. didn't have. But I wonder if they also will miss the finishing from Derrick Jones Jr., particularly the lobs, and the athleticism to put on smaller guards. But then they can also make that up with another wing that does pull up a lot more threes in Quentin Grimes. And I think this is the actual Tim Hardaway Jr. Replacement, because he's a career 37% shooter on over 10 threes. Doesn't do much else. He had a good stretch with the Knicks on one season, but then that kind of dropped off. So it will be. I wonder how he'll bounce back in a new system and in a new coach with a new coach and different players, because that's going to be a much different system. And then there's also Dinwiddie, who is coming back to the Mavericks. He had a rough couple of seasons, but he also had his best season with the Mavericks when he was here a couple of years ago. He did a good job shooting the ball, being efficient and getting to the line when he was with them, and he gave them a lot in the playoffs, especially when Luka was dealing with his injury. So now they have 3 reliable ball handlers, and 2 of them can be on the court at all times. You can have Dinwiddie and Kyrie to just help each other take the load off. You can have 2 ball handlers at all times. And because in those 2 years with the Mavericks, Dinwiddie had a significant jump across the board when he shared the court with Doncic. He scored 16 points per 75 possession on 59% effective field goal and 62% true shooting. He shot 56 from 2 and 41% from 3. So he can work with Luka well. We already know that. We've seen how that works. Maybe this year it will be a lot different with him just maybe adding more stuff, just growing as a player. So all of the additions should be helpful in their chances at winning a title. So the final question is this the best team in the Doncic era, and does this team have a legit chance against anyone in the league? And I think both answers are easy yes. I'm convinced that they can. That right now they are as good as anyone. Maybe the Celtics still being at a bit above them, considering they are the defending champions and the way they did so. But against any other non-Celtics opponent, they have a legit chance. Whether it's the Sixers, the Knicks, the Wolves, the Nuggets, they could beat anyone. They found something with Gafford, Washington, and Lively as their front court when it comes to the defense, and now they're just adding more pieces around them to be more dangerous on both ends of the floor. Then there's the whole Kyrie and Lucas still being better. So right now, I'm very high on them. So some predictions. I see them as a 50 to 58 win team. They've already won 50 games this year, and I think this can be the year where they have a legit chance to be the best team through 82 games. They can be the best, have the best record in the league. That's the ceiling to me. Their floor is 4th seed, but just a comfortable 4th seed where they just take care of business. And with the West being so close, I could still see them around this 4th or 1st seed. I would be a bit cautious right now though about the defense being at that level, but that's only slightly because the pieces are there. They have shown it in the playoffs, but I just want to see more of it. I just want to see that work through 82 games because it was a small sample. Then this might also be the year for Luka winning his first MVP. He was already having a case this year, and this year could be the year that he goes over the hump. So right now they have the chance to be the best team in the league and could set themselves up to win a champion for the first time.